Today we are going to talk about 4 observations I have had looking at the Hertz inventory list of Teslas for the sell-off. Very interesting stuff in there. I know a lot of you guys are very interested in auto acquisition from that list. Before I get into that, click below, grab the 5 things you must do before starting a car rental business. That also includes the Car Share Growth Guide, which gives you a city-by-city breakdown of which car share platform is strongest in your zip code. Lots of great information in there. Also, give this channel a subscribe and a like. Always appreciate that. So let's get into this. I've been looking at the Hertz inventory list of Teslas that they are selling off. Obviously, my company is very interested in purchasing a handful of those for our fleet. A couple of observations I've had about these cars so far. Let's jump in and I'm going to give you 4 things that I've seen so far that I think is pretty interesting and worth noting. First of all, about 98% of the lists are Tesla Model 3s. There are some Model X's in there and some other models for Teslas, but most of them are just base level Model 3s. There are some of the long distance ones in there as well. From what I have seen so far, most of this list is just Tesla base Model 3s. If you're going to buy Teslas, I would say that's probably the safest bet. I really wouldn't go for more of the long range stuff or the X's. You have to understand that when you are renting out these cars, you really just want to have like the lowest amount of overhead possible, especially for a Tesla. So I think that if you're going to go and purchase some of these cars from the Hertz lists, I would say the Model 3 is definitely the way to go. Number 2, about 70% of the inventory is coming from the West Coast, Colorado, or the Southwest. I'm not too surprised to see this. First of all, I would say that the charging infrastructure is a little stronger out in those regions. I would also tell you that just generally speaking, there's a lot more acceptance of EVs in those regions. And also the gas is super expensive in California right now. It's sitting around $6 a gallon. If you're going to look into purchasing some of these cars and you are on the East Coast, just be ready that you're probably gonna have to ship them from somewhere like Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Denver, somewhere in that region. That will probably cost you around $1,000 to $1,200 to ship that to the East Coast, depending on where you are. So that is something to take into consideration should you want to purchase 1 or 2 of these vehicles and bring them to another region of the country. Third observation, in terms of mileage, the average mileage of all these cars, based on the spreadsheet I saw, is a little over 41,000 miles. So that's interesting. So most of these cars, I would say, are in the 1 to 3 year old range. Most of them are sitting around 2021, 22, 23s, on average around 41,000 miles. I've seen some for on the lower end, maybe around 25,000 miles, and some are on the higher end, around 60 to 80,000 miles. That's actually, I would say, a pretty solid place to purchase a Tesla Model 3. What I would tell you to watch out for is the battery situation. On Teslas, there is a small battery and there's a large battery. The small battery is only about $250 to replace. A large battery, however, is much different. It probably these days costs around $10,000 to replace. That is something you really need to kind of watch out for if you buy a Tesla Model 3. Most of these cars come under like a 5-year warranty. I think it covers up to about 125,000 miles. But if you are going to use this car like with an Uber driver or someone who's going to be putting a lot of mileage on this car, I would say you have to be very careful. And you really need to think about how much the battery cost is going to be over time and build that into your calculations of revenue and profit and loss. And the 4th observation is that the average price of these cars is sitting just below $23,000. That's really not too bad. It's a little on the high side for my taste, but I would say that that's not horrific. But as long as it's not over $25,000 or $30,000, I think it's better in general for rentals to kind of sit on the lower side of that spectrum, ideally around $15,000 to $20,000. It's really not a bad deal if you're getting a 22 Tesla for around $22,000 with maybe 34,000 miles on it. That's really not a bad deal. I would say that if you are interested in the Hertz list, give Hertz a call. They can get that list to you. They are certainly happy to help you. But overall, like I said, if you're gonna go into the Tesla game, I'd say the big thing you need to watch out for is the battery situation, because that has bit a lot of owners in the butt and it is a very expensive repair. So if you are going to buy Tesla Model 3s, you either need to have a plan to sell them before that happens or figure something out with regards to how you charge the customer to to accommodate for that eventual expense. And lastly, I'll say this before and I'll say it again. I don't think that Model 3s and EVs are fundamentally flawed in this industry. I think they can be made use of. I just think the way Hertz handled this situation was not ideal. There have been a lot of rumors about just issues with their operations as well, and just the way in which they ran their short-term rental business with Teslas. I don't think that really Tesla is to be the scapegoat here. Like I said, their investor calls had talked about cost of the batteries, etc. But what I would say is there is a specific way to rent these cars. I think ideally you rent it out to maybe an Uber driver for a year and sell it. That's probably what I would recommend at most, maybe 2 years. But overall, you definitely want to kind of have these cars going in and out so that you're not getting stuck with that battery expense. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. If you are on the West Coast, you are definitely near all of these cars that are being sold. And if you're on the East Coast, like I said, probably going to have to deal with a small and marginal shipping fee to bring that car to you. All that said, before I go, click below, grab the 5 things you must do before starting a car rental business. I will catch you in the